join Baltimore Black leaders and community members as we discuss issues impacting our community. And notice I said impacting our community because each one of us has our own special, specific community. Although, it's a lot of things going on, but focus on our community. I always believe in the work that I've done for the last 25 years working with families, started off in, back in the day, with the welfare, conception of the welfare at work program. And working with mothers, parents, fathers, I would always tell them it starts with one person at a time. And we educate that one person, whether it be a child, whether it be a parent. And that person takes the information back home to their family. And the family integrates the information into the community. And so that's why I say each individual community. And together it happens. I want to welcome, first of all, our guest of honor from Florida, Urban Radio. One, Mr. Paul Nelson and his wife Linda. We want to welcome them to our forum this afternoon. Followed by Dr. Grady Dale. We want to welcome him to our forum this afternoon. Ms. Poole, you will hear from her. She will be sharing information on her program. Ms. Darlene Cain, we just welcome everyone. Everybody give them a hand for coming out. And please do not feel that I've ignored you because everyone here is is to be honored in their own right. Okay, all of us here. So let's give yourselves a hand for being here. Acknowledging the contributions that you have made to your own local community. And I'm quite sure it started with your family first and what it was. So we thank you so much for being here.
But also to fight for rights and new legislations and laws. So at this particular time, this is the season that I have to lobby and talk to our delegates and all our senators in reference to new legislations for gun sense in America, police accountability, and all nationwide. So what I usually do is I help mothers, hundreds of mothers, across this globe, not just in Baltimore City, to learn about how they can use their voices and also to always speak to people and tell their story. We all have a story, every last one of us in here, and you should use your voice to tell your own story. So when my son was killed by the police, I learned they don't want the spirit of forgiveness. And once I learned the spirit of forgiveness, I wanted to spread love and I wanted to spread peace in my community. So for therapy, I started cleaning, doing cleanups all over Baltimore City, north, east, south, and west. Started sweeping, started taking pictures. That was my new hobby. I started writing. I began my new book. And once I started my new book, it was during the pandemic. And the title was called I Made It Through. I made it through because I came from skin and bones. And I came from laying on the sofa, not combing my hair, not taking a shower. I felt hopeless, I felt helpless. But one day something told me to get up, and the title came to me, Mothers on the Move. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. Once I got up, I started meeting people who started telling me about their children they lost to community and gun violence. But not only that, it's not a category, because a loss is a loss. When someone loses a loved one, we shouldn't have to say which category you're in. You lost a loved one. So I started taking classes on trauma inquiry through University of Baltimore, and I graduated from the Group Victim Program as well. I want women, especially women and mothers, to use their voices and to be able to fight for the rights for justice for their children. In the court system, I also support mothers and I support fathers and families as well. And also to get the education before you can go and help somebody else. So I went and got all my trauma certifications. That's what I do now. I work with women who are survivors of gun violence. I work with women who lost children to gun violence and loved ones to gun violence as well. I also do my pain. I started a fashion show called From Pain to Fashion. So from pain to fashion, I have models that come in and model for me in reference to their loved ones. And I've been on many radio shows. So I want to thank you for this time And now we have.
I'm now consider myself a community servant. It gets scary when you talk about advocacy, but my background has been in community organizing and community development. I'm a former director of the HUD office in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I had the whole eastern side of Oklahoma, serving as the director of the HUD office. And I worked out in Las Vegas as a community builder with HUD. But before that, I worked with the city of Baltimore 14 years in the Department of Housing and Community Development. I also taught school. I was a community organizer with the Archdiocese of Baltimore. There's a neighborhood here called Park Heights, and I worked there as one of the directors at the Park Heights Community Corporation. And I've been with the Neighborhood Reinvestment Corporation, where I developed programs called neighborhood housing services around the country. And anyway, now I am tired, but not tired. And I want to share with you today one of the major programs that I'm working on here in Baltimore right now, and that oftentimes the city wants to tie me to one project, but I find myself in many neighborhoods talking to communities about the key words now is equity and inclusion. I want to be able to educate our community and gain power, not empower, but power. I always think of empowerment, which came into vogue in the 90s. Giving power. The power we talked about in the 60s was power. The power is earned. I really press that we speak more power rather than empower. I want to share with you something I learned. We'll just talk about the work project I'm working on right now. And I'll begin with this poem. It was done, an ode to Chick Webb. Now Chick Webb is East Baltimorean, right here in East Baltimore. And many people think of Chick Webb as only the drummer. But then we learned that not only drumming, but he was a major philanthropist in helping the black folks through the Depression. But here's my poem. It was done, an ode to Chick Webb. He laid in his bed, knowing to die. His doctor standing along his side. Chick had a twinkle in his eye. Doctor, he said, there's one thing I want you to do. Our Negro children are suffering too. I wish for them to romp and play in a safe place that they will grow. No fear will they bear. Just good citizenry to our country so dear. Call my friend, I'm so sure. He will help you to endure. He knows my plea for our Negro youth to strive to be free. I'll do my best, oh child of mine. I'll call your friend, Joe of mine. Our city knows of need and despair. Oh yes, and why may help to give our youth a way to shine. No help came from the two. The doctor forged ahead as his friend had said he'll do. A call to Joe to lead the club. The alarm rang with Ella, Mom, Armstrong, not to forget Ellington and others. Oh, what a sentiment at the 5th Regiment Armory. The war had come that we had to succumb, with victory then and one more to overcome. Outcry to Baltimore so wide. Come on, Negroes, let's build a bridge so our youth can climb one day beyond the line. 8 years passed, and there it was, a monument for our Negro youth, named the Chick Webb Memorial Recreation Center, that hails for both East and West. This was truly a worthy cause. And just to say that this street we're on right now, this was Baltimore's borderline. And even as a kid, I very seldom crossed this street. We had recreation centers all over the place where black folks couldn't go. So this is the first black recreation center in the country built by nationally known black folks. So the name that I talked about is Joe Louis was Chick Webb's friend, and that's when he called his friends in New York, who came to Baltimore in February 1940 and built the Chick Webb Center from the ground up. The city was going to demolish this 5 years ago when we did an intervention that prevented the demolition of the Chick Webb Center. Now it's on the road to start construction this year at $22 million. But again, our communities was in fact going to allow that particular center to be demolished because of the way planners go into neighborhoods and don't give our communities the stories. So that's a little bit. I have a chart here. I can talk to you further.
You need to take that. I was born by the river in a little tent, and oh, just like that river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. I don't know what's up there on the skies. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes it will. So I go to my brothers and my sisters, hey, and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Oh, it's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes it will. And you know, I stop that usually. I'm not here to serenade you guys, but I am going to sing a few pieces because this is Black History Month. And don't think I just come up here to entertain you. This is a us song, right? Before we finish, we're going to give James Weldon Johnson his due because it is Black History Month. For me, that's 365. I don't know about you. But since he did create the week that then became a month, and now for me and my generation, 365, 366, because this is a leap year, we are all going to sing, lift every voice and sing before we get out of here today. I hope you know more than one verse, because most people just know the first stanza, let's just be honest. My name is Kim Poole, and I'm with the Teaching Artists Institute. And though I am a traditional artist and music is a universal language, it's bigger than music. I realize that art is everything and everybody all the time. It's about innovation, innovative ideas, design thinking. That creativity needs to be found in every sector.
Now, I'm not from Baltimore. I've been in Baltimore since 1980. But yes, I've heard the Baltimore stories. I've heard the Johns Hopkins stories. And so we understand what that means. Let me back up 7 minutes because I don't want to take a whole lot of time. I got my education in New Jersey and in Colorado. I found my way to Baltimore in personal circumstances. And I worked in state agencies, I worked in the juvenile agencies, I worked in juvenile justice, I worked for Spring Grove Hospital. I worked that whole business. And I saw a lot of mayhem in those places. Too many of them were black folks. Now, what's interesting is we as black folks have had to deal with so much trauma. Just think about The young lady talked about Memphis. Can you imagine the trauma that's going on in Memphis at this point? And from what I've read, Dr. King died in 1968, and Memphis still isn't over that trauma. There are people in Memphis that remember that and still suffering from the trauma of that event. Well, what's going on in our neighborhoods? Black folks are suffering. It is wonderful to have you all here in terms of what you're doing. My business is that I would like to see whatever we do combined with what you do and not cut off one thing over another. Mental health, and I'm very interested in black males. Black males can do things that do self-harm even when they don't want to do self-harm. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Because admitting that you are not as strong as you should be becomes a marker for our males. And they die all over the place in the streets by gunfire and whatever. Now, I need the work that I do, and by the way, for 30 years, my wife and I had a group called the American Institute for Urban Psychological Studies. And we had advocacy groups from grief and loss to children. I'm very interested in children, about how we can support our children in many, many ways, through the arts, through the kinds of programs that are flourishing to an extent in this town, and without neglecting their mental and physical health. So people like me want to be around you so you can help me so I can help you. And we have to do this together. If we don't do this together, we're going to have the kind of trauma that we continue to have. We're going to have a black male trauma, because it's nothing like getting somebody backed up against the wall.
He was the first reporter allowed to interview Nelson Mandela on the eve of his historic 1991 release from his South African prison. Let's give him a hand for that. As the news director for Stevie Wonder's KJLH Radio, he was the only news reporter allowed across police lines during the 1991 Rodney King riots. KJLH's acclaimed coverage of this civic unrest garnered KJLH the prestigious George Foster Peabody Award, NAACP Image Award, Golden Mike Award, Los Angeles Press Club Award, and several other industry-wide awards. So then it talks about his history, but he doesn't talk a little bit about that, but then we get down to this other part. He was involved in the MLK birthday, making that a national holiday. And I'll just read this last part. And he has interviewed former presidents, prime ministers, and former South African Premier Peter Bmore. Okay, interesting. Let's see. All right. He's interviewed Jesse Jackson during the presidential run, Senator Edward Kennedy, Representative Maxine Waters, John Conyers, Diane Watson, Julian Bond, T.D. Jakes, Andrew Young, Reverend Al Shaw. And several others I see. Elizabeth Taylor, Oprah, Michael Jackson, Prince, Sidney Poitier, Dionne Warwick, Gladys Knight, Smokey Robinson, Red Fox, Luther Vandross, Quincy Jones, Berry Gordy, Magic Johnson, Muhammad Ali, O.J. Simpson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Richard Pryor, Nancy Wilson, to name just a few. In Baltimore, he don't go through that, but you should read his bio. Thank you.
But thank you, Brother Haki. Thank you, Melissa, as well. And thank you, everybody who showed up here, especially on this pretty chilly day. Thank you for showing up. It's all of Black history. We wanted to open up the show like that. We said, we'll put the front page. So, okay, we started the front page. When they opened the phone lines, they thought people were going to ask about Prince. Did you see Prince at some club last night? People said no. They were upset about Latasha Harley. She was this young 12-year-old who got shot in the back of the head by a Korean. Korean said she was trying to steal some orange juice. People were upset, and they wanted to talk about that. So I'm sitting there across from the DJ, and he goes, "It's you." He didn't want to tell you. He said, "I can handle that as you." That started a 15-minute conversation, just taking the phone calls. And by doing that, I figured out something's going to pop after if these cops, and that was at the Rodney King, the trial was going on and all that. If Rodney King, if these cops who beat Rodney like that get off free, something's going to, I didn't know where it's going to be Florence and Normandy, but I knew it was going to happen. So when it happened, we were sort of semi-prepared because we knew, we could hear the frustrations of the callers who called into the show. They didn't want to talk about entertainers and athletes. We have the Showtime Lakers going there. They didn't want to talk about that. They were at the station all the time. That's another thing. Because Stevie owned the radio station. At one point, the station was almost like an extension of the studio. There was so many entertainers. Marvin Gaye was shooting hoops in the back. You know, Barry White hung out. One of my employees, when I was talking to her, she just left, and she was telling me about, you know, her first day, she says, when she came in and she went to do a newscast, she came back, Barry White was sitting at her desk. And she said, "Is this what it's going to be like?" And to be honest, we're just working, so it was normal for us. Ali would be there all the time. Ali would be, he'd call me and say, "How many people at the radio station?" I said, 22. Right now, I'm stopped at, not McDonald's, Burger King. I'm stopped at Burger King. And I'll get hamburgers. And he did that several times. He'd just come out and just talk. Bobby Womack. You know, and those were regulars. Or if we were going to speak, if I had to go speak to, I was one day, somebody wanted me, I was telling Barry White I was going to speak at a school in Compton. He goes, "Well, man, I'll come with you, I'll ride with you." I said, "Okay. You sure, but don't drive the roads now." He said, "Man, I'm from these streets. These people know me." I said, "You can ride with me in the news car if you want, Barry." He said, "No, I'll meet you down there." So I didn't tell him, because I didn't know if you know, sometimes these people say, "I'm going to show up," and then something else jumps out, maybe they don't. So I didn't want to disappoint people telling me, "Look out for Barry White." So I'm up there talking to the students, and he comes on the stage, and they just go wild. And these are high school students, so I thought maybe the parents or the teachers would go wild for Barry White. But that's the kind of environment it was in LA. But anyway, back to doing the talk show in the mornings. When the riot started, we were there at the station maybe 3, maybe 4 days. The hours ran in together. We didn't even know, because we were on the air, just taking calls, trying to calm people down. We had people we had a lady called up, couldn't get her medicine because they burned down the drugstore. So just went, "Hey, any doctors listening? Can you get it over there? If you can't, can you get it to the station? We'll get somebody to get her medicine, because this lady needs her medicine." And they stayed at the city attorney general of Compton. And he read a series, "When We Were Kings," and you can get that right now. All of these things, everything that we created was created by us. Everything, in the medical field. You go to Egypt, we were in Egypt with Renee Rashidi. Ashraf Qureshi was supposed to take us, but Ashraf Qureshi had a conflict. We had to take another group, and it was too close. So he said, "We're going to take Renoko." Renoko knows all about Egypt, so we went with Renee Rashidi. Even for the lawyers in here, the scales of justice, that's what came from us. The doctors, we take some doctors, and they said all this equipment, the stirrups for the women, OB/GYN, all that stuff was created by us. That stuff's still on the walls. This is the stuff that DeSantis doesn't want you to know. If you know this, you'll be so proud of our ancestors. I mean, we looked at them like, "Man, and how long has this been on these walls with these hieroglyphics?" And everything that you think, you think, "Oh, it was a doctor, and they had taken the Hippocratic oath." All of that started right there. You know, when all these legal folks, and if black people ever knew that a black man, we taking that Hippocratic oath, there was a black man who started that, and Motep, who all started all that stuff. Lawyers, if they knew that, the feather, the balance, if they knew all of that, they'd be busting with pride if our young people ever found out that this is what we did. So this is what we sort of built the show around our scholars. We try to showcase them, every single one of them, because there was something to learn. We had Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark. And by the way, the show starts at 4:30 in the morning. First it was 5 to 6. And the people started complaining and like, no. So, the station said, well, man, you can come in at 2 o'clock in the morning and do it. We don't care. As long as you get ready for the news of the morning show, it starts at 7 o'clock. You could talk all night. So, okay, I'm getting up for 4:30. So, and I know people struggling about 4 o'clock early, 6 o'clock early in the morning. In LA market, TV news starts at 4 a.m. That's TV news, okay? When you tell people that it's too early, they can't get up at 6 o'clock, but it's different energy on the West Coast than here. And the reason why you put you in the mornings because it's the most important part is the radio artists, they'll tell you as far as ratings are going, because they're after the people who are going to work. They want you to, when you're going to work, you turn on your radio, and you leave your radio, and you're coming back, you haven't changed the station. So back in those days, before the new rating system, you get credit, your station will get credit for the entire day. That's why it's important for the mornings. That's why it's important for the morning start at 6 a.m. Some stations start at 5:30. Like I mentioned in LA, they start at 4. And they start at TV at 4. When people don't have TV in their cars. So it's a little different. The energy is a little different on the West Coast. But that's how we started the morning. So when we got to OL, now we're trying to figure out, we're doing the same kind of programming. We've got to figure out how to honor some of these things you're talking about, Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark. The show starts at 4:30 in the morning. They can't get up that early. Because they're in the 80s by then. So I had to go to the station and say, listen, I need 2 hours on Saturday morning, I need 2 hours, 8 to 10. I don't ask for much, but I need 2 hours. They said, for what? I said, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark. Who are they? And I told them that, these old guys, what are they going to talk about? Just listen. Just give me the 2 hours. Back then, we didn't have, it wasn't computerized. So, if I could let them go, or I could just sign up the log, you have a log with all the commercials on, I can just sign it in initially, or move the commercial, or move it around. You can't do that anymore. Radio's changed so much now, it's all digitized. So, you basically don't have the controls, as much control as you had back in those days. I just put a line through it, or move it like through somebody's commercial, because that's how the station gets paid with the commercials. I told you earlier this morning about Kmart, what's his name? He came in, what's his name? I forgot his name already. You were there this morning, what was his name?
Mike Johnson, not Mike.
No, and his name's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, he was a thinker. He sold out Dr. King. He was helping the Rowan Report, Carl T. Rowan. So you probably heard him, because he was running all on black radio. Yeah. The Rowan Report. So anyway, he was coming on and playing one time. I said, we with Steve Copeland. He said, man, why are we playing at that? You got all these scholars helping us out. You got this Uncle Tom who sold out Dr. King. I said, Steve, are you sure? He says, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, you didn't have Google to go Google it. Now you can't Google it. Like, Steve, I'm going to move it. So I moved him, for a few days, and the sales manager said he's not going to pay because we moved him, and I'm costing the station money, It was building up to a big hurrah. So when I did, I called Steve and I said, listen, Steve, we can have this man in the show. When we can move him after the show or before the show, but he's going to try to destroy everything with that, because everybody knows he's sold out. He sold out Dr. King. He said, what? I said, ask Teresa. He has a lawyer who's halfway conscious out of Chicago. So I said, ask Teresa, she'll tell you. Because I know some of the other folks around there, they don't know the history. And I didn't know either. So I Carl T. Rowan and the other folks who were selling out Dr. King with the FBI.
Hello everyone, this is Ronald Miles. I am so pleased today to work with the National Action Network and the Teachers Arts Group. It was a phenomenal event where we had some very key people here that connecting all of us together as black people. I was so pleased to be able to discuss the historic Chick Webb Memorial Recreation Center as being the only black center in America built by nationally known black people that took 8 years to do. And here now in Baltimore, we're beginning to look at the redevelopment in 2023 for it to become an intergenerational recreation center to accommodate the existing residents in the neighborhood, as well as educating our people of the national significance. When you had people like Joe Louis, Ella Fitzgerald, Jackie Morris, maybe Duke Ellington, who came to segregated Baltimore on Chick Webb's death wish and built a recreation center. I appreciate you all, and we continue to educate, bring the National Action Network and the arts and culture together. Phenomenal event. Thank you so much.
Here with Carl Nelson. This is his WOLB appearance in Baltimore. So how did you enjoy yourself, Brother Carl?
Oh, I had a great time. I met so many interesting people, some of the folks that have called in on the radio show. I want to thank everybody who showed up because it was kind of a chilly day. I was sort of overwhelmed that so many people actually showed up at both events. So I want to thank each and every person who showed up today.
Right. So yeah, it was great, talking to the black men, unifying black men, and meeting all the brothers and sisters. So, just talk about your show just in terms of, the times and, what type of people you generally have.
All right, we're here in Baltimore on WOLB, and what we want trying to do at WOLB is to get closer to the community. We want to interact with the community. If you're listening and watching this, there's something going down in Baltimore, just reach out to us. That's what we're here for. You can reach me. I'll give you my email addresses right now. Carl Nelson at radio-1.com. And just send me something going down, and you think the rest of the folks need to know about it, just reach out to us. Our show starts at 6 a.m. in the morning, and we go until 10. If you missed the show, you can get a podcast copy from the WOLB website. So please check us out and tell all your friends. We're now on WOLB from 6 until 10 a.m. Monday through Friday.